joined by Dr. Karen Parker, pioneer of quantum human design, visionary teacher, and best selling author who helps people break cycles of burnout and reclaim their vitality. She believes our lives aren't random, they're stories, and when we consciously rewrite those stories through human design, we unlock resilience, serenity, and purpose. So sit back, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. First of all, thank you, Dr. Karen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to host you today, and I would love to know that many of us unknowingly we live inside limiting, right? And sometimes they are repetitive stories. So, how do you see these stories shaping our choices and resilience? And yes, how is it for you?
Well, when we go through our lives, as we make decisions, as we choose, as we navigate opportunities that appear before us, our brains, which are basically the biggest source of our decision making capacity, is a very efficient and very practical organ. The brain is programmed by the stories we tell about who we are and how we are. So when we tell a story that is a story of empowerment, a story that holds our value, a story that says we deserve to choose good things, when we have good quality stories that are internalized into our identity, it actually programs our brain to start seeing the world through the lens of opportunity and possibility in such a way that it matches our story. So if we tell a good story, we choose good things for our lives. If we have a story that is disempowering, if we have a story that is limited, if we have a story that denies our own value, then that story is what's creating. And oftentimes it shuts us down and keeps us from fulfilling the full potential of who we were born to be.
That makes so much sense. And yes, so what is that one story, or what is one of the most common stories that you see people stuck in? Or, what are the patterns that they're stuck in? You must have analyzed those patterns, and what is that one ratio that you find it's higher over here, and this needs to be worked upon?
So I would say probably the most common story that I would say almost every person I've ever worked with embodies in some way is the story of not enough. Most of us have places within our story where we believe that something about us is not good enough, isn't talented enough, isn't worthy enough. We all, to a certain degree, struggle with our self worth. Part of why this becomes why this is such a common story is that the way we've organized the world at this point in time in the evolution of the human story, we've organized the world to measure value, worth in numbers. So if we go back and you look at, let's talk about money as an example, right? Money is a way that we use to measure value. If I have more money than, say, somebody else, then society judges me oftentimes as being more worthy than somebody else. I'm not more worthy than somebody else. We're all precious. We're all valuable. But in a world that measures value externally instead of internally, it's just natural that we all start to internalize a story of not enough. When we tell stories of being not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not skilled enough, I don't have enough, I need more, I am lacking in some way. When we tell that story, again, part of what we create because we program the brain is to create less than enough. And of course, the more we experience less than enough, the more we continue to internalize that story and we continue to manifest the story of I am not enough, and that not enoughness appears everywhere.
I'd agree to it, and that is a pattern, truth. Also, you often use the hero's journey as a framework, right? So, how does seeing life through this lens, through the lens of hero journey, how does it help someone shift from feeling like a victim of circumstances to the hero of their own path? Or if I put it in a better way, that with self-victimization that we do of ourselves in both positive and negative ways, how is, the hero journey helping them become their own heroes?
So let's start first and let's break down exactly what is the hero's journey. So the hero's journey is a format of storytelling that is basically pulled from the work of Joseph Campbell. But it's a format that's in pretty much any story, ancient and modern. In the hero's journey, we have a main character, the hero in the story. That main character goes through challenges. They will go through lessons. They'll go on a quest and they'll have to confront parts of themselves or confront external demons. And in that confrontation, in the trajectory or in the model of the hero's journey, from that confrontation, from that challenge, they deepen their own self awareness. They cultivate wisdom. They find meaning and purpose. And of course, once they overcome that obstacle in the story, they will emerge the healer. So if we go back and we look at, let's say a traditional story, let's say St. George and the Dragon, right? St. George starts out, he's sort of young, he's kind of figuring out who he is in the world. He takes on this quest of slaying this dragon. He goes through all kinds of trials and tribulations and finally manages to slay the dragon and returns a hero. And in becoming the hero, he also embodies wisdom. He embodies courage. He becomes this person in the world who knows how to tap into that courage whenever there's a challenge. What research shows is that if we take the stories of our lives and we put them through that hero's journey template, in other words, if we decide, okay, I'm stuck in a story. I'm stuck in a story where, let's say, I don't have courage. I'm afraid to do things. And that fear that is part of my identity keeps me stuck. Every time I encounter something that stretches me, that pushes me out of my comfort zone, that makes me afraid, every time I hit that fear spot, I retreat. I don't go through the journey. I don't go through the challenge, and I hold myself back. Now, if you are working with, when I work with clients, right, if you are a person who maybe has a story where you hold yourself back, maybe you hold yourself back because you don't feel safe. Maybe you hold yourself back because you don't feel worthy. Maybe you hold yourself back because you haven't learned yet how to work with fear and use fear as a catalyst for growth. If you have a story that you're stuck in, you can actually take your story and in an intentional creative writing process, rewrite your story through the lens of the hero's journey, which means you might start your story. And in your story, as you're intentionally rewriting the story, you might make yourself the main character, right? You become the potential. So as you write your story, you might turn whatever challenge you have in your life into a metaphorical dragon, if you will. You might write your story out as a creative writing process and say, I'm here. I want to overcome my fear. So I'm going to write my story in such a way that I go through this challenge. And as I go through this challenge in the writing process, you can call in all kinds of mystical creatures. You can call in real life experiences, but you write into this story the capacity that you have to overcome a challenge and then to eventually internalize the qualities and characteristics, the wisdom you need to embody in order to become the hero. Now that process is literally a creative writing process. It's a process that's based in narrative psychology. It's a process that we use a lot in my practice called Story Lab, where if you're stuck in a story, you literally walk or take somebody through an intentional creative writing process. What research shows is that creative writing process affects a lot of things. First of all, it actually affects our immune system. When we take back control of the story, even if we're doing it as a creative exercise or as a creative writing project, when we take back control of the story, we actually increase or boost our immune response. We know that reframing our life's experiences through the lens of the hero's journey gives our life a greater sense of purpose and meaning. And when we have a deeper sense of purpose and meaning, it gives us more resilience. And when we are more resilient, we're better able to navigate the challenges that life throws at us, or we're able to navigate uncertainty. I mean, we're living right now in a time that can feel pretty uncertain for a lot of us. Every day, I don't know how it is for you. Every day I look at the news and I'm thinking, what is happening, right? This whole world feels very different from day to day. Having a sense of purpose and meaning that you cultivate from understanding that every challenge that you've experienced in your life has been a formative experience. It's been part of the quest that your personal hero, you have been on, and that those quests are essential parts of you cultivating wisdom, courage, strength, value, self-trust, intuition, creativity, awareness, all those pieces of your being or pieces of your story that you need to really be able to get to the next level, to really emerge as a more embodied, evolved experience of yourself, when you see your life as a story, as a hero's journey, you're then able to use that understanding to confront the challenges ahead of you. That keeps you from getting stuck. It really keeps you connected to the purpose and the meaning of your life so that when you do get those challenges, and they're inevitable, you're able to sort of overcome those challenges and integrate those challenges as part of your life story.
I love that, Karen. And yes, there is so much to it. And first of all, that is so human, isn't it? It can feel safer to stay, small than to rise. And it's just doable the way you share it with us. Also, human design charts, they can look complicated like this mysterious language, right? So, how does quantum human design, how does it make it simple and practical so people can actually, use it in their daily decisions like career, relationships, and sometimes even health?
So, human design, which is a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, and Judaic Kabbalah, is basically a personality assessment that's calculated based on your birthday, time, and place, just like with astrology. This personality system is a synthesis basically of ancient and modern archetypes. Now, an archetype is just a part of a story, right? And whenever we're telling a story and we're looking at all the parts and pieces of a story, an archetype is simply parts and pieces of a story. We're born into a unique and special story. Each one of us is born to fulfill a story, a very unique story that's never been on the planet before, that will never be on the planet again. Your human design is a way of mapping the story that is yours to fulfill. So your human design chart, which is, as I said, generated from your birthday, birth time, and birthplace, really puts out a map. It puts out a map to the story you're born to live. That map has layers. And so when we look at the human design chart and we look at it in correlation to the hero's journey, there's a layer in the chart. We call that the type in human design. So there are 5 energy types in human design. That type correlates to the main character in your story or the hero in your story. The next layer in the chart, which is called the profile, correlates to the characteristics or the qualities of the hero in your story. And so when we start going through and taking back control of the story and we're looking at our story through the lens of the hero's journey, your profile represents the characteristics that your hero embodies, that you will be working with as a curriculum over the span of your whole life. It's kind of like part of your soul curriculum for your life story. The next layer in the chart represents the energy that you experience and the energy that you give out into the world. That energy, those energy centers, which correlate loosely to the 7 chakras from the Hindu chakra system, represent what we call your sacred flaw, right? Every story, every character in a story, every main character in a story has a sacred flaw. It's that thing that lives inside the character, the youthful experience, the immature part of the character. And as you go through the hero's journey, your character has to mature. And so oftentimes you have to confront the sacred flaw in your character, that thing that in the shadow can make you small, but when you understand it and you can work with it, can actually be part of your superpower. The next levels in the chart which represent what we call circuitry in the chart, which correlates directly to the Sephirot from the Judaic Kabbalah. Those gates and those channels are also part of your sacred flaw, aspects of your personality that you have to mature as part of the quest of being alive. So when I work with my clients, especially when we start working with stories around core areas in your life, like health and wealth and relationships, I have them use their chart and really look at the layers in the chart and correlate those layers to the hero's journey, and then teach them how to literally intentionally write their story based on the chart in such a way that they take their own character through this hero's journey arc and ultimately take back control of any story they're telling about themselves. And as I said, get them back rooted into their sense of purpose and meaning in life.
True. Also, it is so fascinating, first of all, because it shows that this isn't just a theory, first of all, and it can also be a tool that people can apply right away, right? Also, burnout, it is everywhere. People who are juggling between careers, families, and endless responsibilities. their hobbies, their passion, their leisure time. So, how can rewriting our inner story through human design help restore the balance between all these errands and chaos? Yeah, how it helps in restoring the balance and the energy. Can you please put it in picture for us?
Sure. So, what human design does is it gives you deep insights into your authentic self. When we live our lives out of alignment with our authentic selves, in other words, when we're trying to be someone we're not, when we say yes to things we need to say no to, when we say no to things we want to say yes to, when we're trying to be somebody else other than the person we were born to be, we actually spend a lot of energy maintaining the disguise. So it takes a lot of energy to be someone you're not. When you understand your human design, you move into authentic self expression. And when we live authentically and we are creating and making decisions from an authentic place, we're not wasting our energy trying to be someone we're not. And that actually can help us not only reconnect with our natural energy and restore our vitality, can actually help us prevent getting burned out from using or wasting our energy trying to be something or someone we're not.
So true, so true. Um, okay, one last question I have. So, if someone is listening right now and is feeling exhausted and stuck, so what is that one small step that they could take today to start shifting that story of theirs?
Well, the first thing that I would say is get your human design chart because that's going to give you a lot of information about how to reconnect with your natural energy and your authentic self. And the second thing that I would say is start reconnecting with your body. The body is a compass. And when we learn to make decisions based on what feels good and right in the body instead of getting up in our heads and trying to figure it out, then we begin to make decisions that are strong and aligned, that are healthy, that unlock vitality and move us back into a place, a natural place of self trust.
I love that first of all, and it sounds so hopeful and practical at the very same time. Thank you, Dr. Karen Parker. You've shown us, that the stories that we tell ourselves, they can either cage us or free us. That is what my thought is. And through quantum human design, we can stop repeating old scripts, right? We can, stop rewriting our chapters exactly like history. And for our listeners, here is your invitation. Question the old story, honor your hero's path, and begin writing the narrative that truly reflects your light. I'm Pragya Malvia, and this is Soul Sparks. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep rewriting the story of you.